Hey, everybody, and welcome to On the Table. My name is Chris Barrows, and I am here with the long distance gamers. Two of them are still in the distance trying to join us. Some technical difficulties on their end. So we did want to get a jump start on it. It was important. I thought that we got going because we got a lot of great stuff to talk about today. And quite frankly, we have a lot of exciting things and games that we want to play, that we have played, I should say, that we're going to talk about. For those who don't know, On the Table is a part of his channel. We do once a month, and I bring new guests on. The long distance gamers, though, you've been on the channel before, and I'm just so excited to have you back. So first and foremost, Lizzie, thank you for coming back on the channel.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting us. And I mean, it's always a great time. So I'm looking forward to learning some of these games too.
Yes, that is part of the fun of it. I will kick this off today, actually, with a reminder for everyone. This is really important because as we do this, if you do join live or you join after the fact, share your favorite gameplays of November and December. November was a little nuts. We had a really big stream that took up a lot of planning and strategizing. So we didn't get one in. So if you didn't play something necessarily in December, but you want to talk about something from November, welcome to discuss it in the comments. We'll be sharing comments, of course, throughout, as I have in the past. But you can always drop those comments in the main video on YouTube. Perfectly fine with me. With that, I'm going to talk about, I guess I'll go first here, talk about two games that I played this month that had me excited. Really enjoyed. And I want to dive into PAX Unplugged games a lot, but tomorrow night I'm doing a whole video about PAX Unplugged, unpacking PAX Unplugged with Anthony from Board Game Dad. So going to hold off on some of the really new good ones. But with that in mind, let me get right into it. So Lizzie, I think we talked about this a little bit before. You have not played Calico or any of the games in that line, from my knowledge.
Nope, not yet.
Well,
Soon.
you're going to be very well worth playing. I want to talk about one of the games I finally got to play, and it was this level of excitement I can't even put into words, and that was Cascadia. Designed by Randy Flynn, art by Beth Sobel. Flat Out Games does this game. It's in essentially what will be turning into a trilogy with Verdant. And this game, just when this hit the table for me, I have to tell you, I was excited because I've been dying to play it, and it was everything I thought it'd be. Now, I like Calico. I like Calico a lot. Calico is a very tight game. You've got limited space. Every move counts. Cascadia was a little bit freeing, and I think that's a fair way to put it because you have flexibility on the table. You're not stuck within the board and only placing in certain spots. In this case, you have a chance to stretch out and spread across the board. Obviously, there's placement rules in this game, but the game itself, fairly straightforward, honestly. You've got multiple ways to score, which are placements of certain large areas, such as a forest, as you can see in towards the top of this board. It's the way you place some of the animals on the board, and that's another way that you're going to score. And there's these bonuses that you accrue. So I think from a game's perspective, it's a very easy game to teach. But the beauty of this game is easy to teach, looks great on the table. The combination of everything, it's a great little puzzly game, and it fits perfectly in. And I think one of the questions I've seen is, can you own both? And honestly, I think this was the great thing about it. I learned very clearly you could, because this fits in my collection right next to Calico. They're different enough. Calico, like I said, really tight, because it's a board that eventually you can't put a piece down anymore. So I don't know what your impressions of Calico even were too, because I know you know of Calico, but you
I
had
know
not played it yet.
basics. Like I know the cat on the cover is not a calico cat, but calico is a sewing term. So that's the
Right.
reason why it's still called calico. And the cats aren't really super important. But I am curious, which one, if you could only keep one, which one would you keep, the calico or the Cascadia?
Ooh, that's tough. I probably, if you're forcing me, and we have Kitty and Brooks who've been able to join us here. Thank you guys so much.
Apologies.
So
My,
right,
My anxiety about lives was just exploited.
It's okay. It happened. It happens. We're talking. Lizzie just asked me because I had my first game that I talked about was Calico. Not Calico, it was Cascadia. And if I had to pick one, which is such a tough question, by the way.
Oh man.
You're welcome.
That is hard. I love Calico so much, but after one or two plays of Cascadia, it probably would edge it out, but just barely. Like, it's so tight of a choice to make. I do think that it's still puzzly and you've got a lot of decision making to do, but you do it with a little bit more flexibility, and ultimately that will be less frustrating to other people I play with, whereas I like the tight puzzle. I really do. So
we got Cascadia, so we're super excited to try it.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's gorgeous. I mean, like I said, I always look at I look at just this photo that I had taken, and like it looks beautiful and bright on the table. The scoring mechanisms are going to be similar to those who've played Calico. So if you've played Calico, you would be very similar to the idea that there's a few ways to score in terms of just patterns on the table. But this adds the fact that when I'm picking up one of these tiles, what's actually happening is it's also paired with a animal, and that adds this new element to it. And there are ways where you can pick one animal and then go to a different tile, completely different area. So you have some ways around it, but it is a great game. I highly recommend it. So get it to the table when you can.
And I'm a sucker for nature games, so usually anything with a nature theme is like right up my alley. So.
Yeah, and those fishes are making me hungry. So,
well, and I do see we have some folks joining us. I do see Board Game Dads, who, just for those tuning in late, or you started late, so in all fairness, you're on time. Board Game Dads and I will be talking tomorrow about PAX Unplugged, and we're going to unpack everything we saw, which was a lot. Did a lot, and most of that stuff was not together. Most of that stuff was separate, so there'll be a lot of fun. And again, that friendly reminder for everyone: if you've been playing a game this month, tell us a game you're excited about that you got to play this month. That experience, ideally one of those first experiences that you're having. With that said, I have another game that I want to make sure I talk about for mine, and that is a game that actually it's so appropriate that Anthony mentioned is here, I should say, because he brought me on to this game, and that is a game called Mandala. Now, this one by Lookout Games, Trevor Benjamin, Brett Gilbert, Clemens France on art illustration. I believe it was art. 2-player game. And for those who know me or have watched the channel, you'll probably hear me rave about Targi. It's the 2-player game for me. I think I'm at the point where I'm about to say it was the number one.
Oh, wow.
Because I love Targi for the strategic level, but I also have to be able to get a game to the table. And this game is so easy to get to the table. It's got this beautiful linen cloth that you put down that you see on the table. The cards wouldn't normally necessarily be set up exactly like that. Those are just 2 random cards. This was not actually from a specific game. But you've got this mountain space, these field spaces, and a river space, which is the area below where you see all those boxes. And then you've got the cup, which is all the way to the right on your perspective side. And ultimately, you're playing to all these spots with the idea of trying to collect as many of these to get them into your river at the highest scoring spot. And the first card you put in the river, and this is what I love about it, the first card I put in that river is going to be worth 1 point for every one in the cup. And as you go on and on, 2 points, 3 points. When someone completes their river, ultimately the game is going, the round's going to essentially end, and you're going to add up your points. But in those mandalas, so if you look at this, in this mandala area, a mandala is made up of the mountain and the field. So the mountain is the area where you see the cards right now, and that circle area is the fields. Now, when I have filled this up, that with every different type of color possible, and there's 6, we are now going to score it. Whoever has the most in the field is going to get first pick in the mountain. So you have to be really strategic on where you're playing. It's such a simple game to teach and to learn, but it takes time to master. And I'll tell you, I have not mastered it. But I definitely have not. But I love it. It is skyrocketed up my list. This is easily in my top 2 right now. If you're talking strategic games, I mean, Targi is going to be my number 1, but in terms of top number 2 player game right now, this actually it's fighting Targi at the moment. So that is the ultimate praise that I can give, because I love that game.
Liz actually got us addicted to Targi for a while.
Yeah,
We played it
we were obsessed with
nonstop
it
for like a month.
It's so satisfying. It's such.
It is. No, it really is. And so that's why I say it's hard when I say it, but this game is fun. And again, the simplicity of putting on the table is so important. I do want to note, by the way, Board Game Dads did comment that he's right there with you, and he's always intrigued by a nature theme. And it is a great theme, right?
Sometimes it gets me in a bad way though, because I'll just buy a game if it's nature themed, and then I'm like,
so I shouldn't tell you about Savannah Park that I saw at PAX Unplugged.
I already backed it.
Oh, well, there you go. I saw that at my local store today. So, but you know what? It's funny. I know the next game that we have up, and I believe it's yours, Brooks, is a really great one that a lot of people will know and probably love. I think our oldest one on the lists that we have tonight. So,
it took me many years to finally play that.
Let's talk about it. What is the first one? Because your 2 are coming up now. What's the first one on the list for you tonight?
I believe number 1 is Viticulture.
That is it.
Number 1. Yes. Okay, so let me defend myself first before Liz attacks me. She was just about to. Okay, so I went through this. Well, it wasn't a phase. It was kind of how I started. I could not get into Euro games. Heavy Euro games. No matter what. Worker placement was like a cuss word, and I just recoiled from it. And Liz kind of slowly started to get me into them. And
I think Fresco was one of the first.
Fresco was one of the first. And then over the past 2 years, actually during the majority of the pandemic, we did tons of, Concordia was the first one that blew my mind. And then this is the most recent one. Liz just taught me not too long ago, like about a month ago. And I taught it to Kitty, and we've played it ever since. And it's one of probably in my top 5 games of all time now. It's just a worker placement. If I looked at it a long time ago, I'd be like, this is dry, but it's so strategic, and there's so many wheels moving. And I love the variability of all the different cards and when to play, and I just think it's fantastic.
And it's satisfying to watch your vineyard grow as well.
Yeah. The first couple years are kind of rough.
Yeah.
And some people prefer their wine to be dry, so you're just being thematic.
It also brought up a point for me, because it'd been a while since I played it, and I have the app, which I think could be better. Personally, at least the one that I played on Steam. It seemed like it was whatever version I played, maybe it worked as an app, but it didn't work on the iPad as well. But I was missing a complete side of the board. So I was wondering, what am I doing wrong? I'm screwing something up. And it was one of those where I went back to my physical board and I said, okay, I got to do try to do the solitaire or something with this, because I'm screwing something up. And I realized I was missing a whole part of a board. And I'm like, I should have gone and watched a run through, clearly, because it'd been a while. But I remember playing this game. First time I played this game was actually shortly after I first met Anthony, which was a little bit over 2 years ago, I guess. And it was the same experience. I love this. This game, probably my top 20. I don't want to say it's in my top 10 at the moment, but it's probably my top 25. It's just
I think it just took me by surprise, because I looked at it and I was very cynical when I first got into Euro games, and I was like, that's going to be dry. It's going to be boring. It's
I want to move here to move here.
Move here to move here to move here. You should hear the things I've said about Le Havre, which has probably scarred me from wanting to do Euro games to begin with. But anyway, I'll probably love it now if I went to play it. But
I do have it.
I like the different seasons and how certain actions have to be done in specific seasons. Certain customers or patrons, whatever they're called, have to be used during certain seasons. I just think it's so strategic without being so gritty. that it's boring. I just think it's phenomenal.
And you mentioned something in particular, which I thought was interesting. You said it was kind of like if you zoomed in on Concordia, you feel like that's, and I was like that's so true.
The wine district of the Concordia board. It's almost like you zoom in and this is the micro game happening in there. And it was quick to teach.
It was.
Easy to teach.
The version of this, though, the newer version where they kind of take the more streamlined stuff, I think is the way to go for those who consider viticulture. There's the essential edition. I really do think they did a lot of great stuff with that. And so that's the one that I recommend, but it's a great game. And Jamie,
one last thing I have to shout out about it too, Liz brought it to my attention, which probably made it grow in my heart even more. I believe they're going to be addressing this soon, right, Liz?
Yeah, there's going to be a new expansion for viticulture.
And the mamas and papas won't be specific, so you can make your family unit however you like and to represent you even more. And we think that kind of inclusion is so important. Really cool. So love that.
I did not I knew there was something coming, but I did not realize that was one of it. That's a wonderful update. So thank you for sharing that. I know that's probably meaningful for a lot of the people who will hopefully end up.
Yeah, it seems like a small thing to probably a lot of people, but it's nice to be able to because both of us are queer, so we love to be able to make the family unit how we would like it.
Yeah, because at the beginning of the game, we literally were like, okay, well, you can have two mamas, you can have two papas, and it's just like, oh, we're visiting each other. Like,
although to be fair, it will still be random. So you might still get a heteronormative relationship, but you can have.
But it's a possibility.
No, the fact that it's randomized, and I think the fact that again addressing it's just so important, and we're seeing that with a lot of games. I think you go back, you think about what people talk about, how like getting in, what it'd be like to get a new Puerto Rico or some of these other games that just.
I heard that's in the works.
I believe that is as well. So some things just maybe need a facelift, and they're working on them, and it's baby steps really, but it's steps all the same. The interesting thing is the second game on your list today, I have seen in the store. I've looked at, which is a strange word to use actually in retrospect, but I know very little about it. So I'm so excited to hear you talk about this one.
So I know I'm not cult of the new with the two that I picked, but
normally that's like my brand to be really like old school, like, oh my God.
And I'm like the new shiny Kickstarters, but it's Nyctophobia actually. So funny story. We got into these small little, I'm obsessed with horror. And so we got some horror games, and we went through this phase of playing nothing but horror games. And we have one called Grindhouse, which I highly recommend.
So much fun.
Almost made it on this list, but we've been playing Nyctophobia instead a lot more. So, but Nyctophobia is this kind of, you go in blind. So one of the players plays the victims or the people that are trying to run away from the killer. And you're actually blindfolded. You have those dark glasses on. And you have these pieces that are tactile that make up the landscape. So you have trees and you have barriers and, there's a car, the getaway car.
You really want to get to that.
And you have to do the whole game by touch, whereas your opponent, the killer, can see. And they're trying to confuse you or sneak up on you. It's so cool and builds tension in this weird way. We opened the box.
And we're just playing it as two players.
Looked at the components and we were like, really? This is all this game is? But we were like, whatever, we'll do it. It was some of the most fun, just carefree fun we've ever had. It's not difficult to learn. It's not, crunchy at all. It's just, you guide the person's hand, they touch the things, they try to figure out where they're at on this map as they kind of create a landscape in their head. It's just so cool, and actually built tension. She was freaking out.
I was shaking as he was moving my hand around. So I would say, it's a little crunch for this side of the table. But
yeah, and I love the story for why this game was brought about, because the designer made it for her blind uncle, so that he could enjoy games, and I find that story incredible.
Yeah, so. We can't recommend it high enough, and a lot of people might turn their nose up to it because it's not a strategy game or Euro or anything like that, but it is so much fun.
Well, I've talked about it a lot on here, and I don't preferably, I don't really care if it's people's agree with me or not on it. I think a lot of gaming is about experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And what is the experience you have? It's in the same right that I may not like the long running joke, and this will be the last time I say it, but I guess I'm owed it one more time in 2020 because so be it. But like I joke about how I don't like Caverna, but I understand why people love Caverna. So there is a game may not be for you, but I think there's a lot of people who are going to like any game. This game that you're talking about sounds like it's one of those experience games where I talk about like Betrayal at the House on the Hill and other ones in that same category where you're going to take something away. Even if, and I'm not saying this is true, but even if it wasn't the most mechanically sound or wasn't like it was imperfect in some area, it sounds like it creates just a fun memory. And that's really what I like about it.
And if I could just throw in a cheat, a third like you did with Mandala, I just have to say Grindhouse. If you haven't heard about it, you have to check it out.
It's like a super light Betrayal.
Hilarious. It's exactly that. It's like Betrayal, but it's super light.
And so
and you have a body with like arms and legs and a head, and you could end the game with none of those body parts and still win. It's just,
or just a head at one time.
It's just hilarious. Kitty won as a head. Like it's ridiculous. But you can betray people, and it's so much fun. You have to kind of bid and guess or like plan who's going to go into a room first, and then all kinds of stuff happens. It's so much fun.
Put it on the list. Officially and unofficially, I guess.
Pure fun. Pure fun. If you were
guys adding in third picks for shame.
So, but Kitty has one on this list. It's no secret I pre-assemble slides, so I'm not gonna be pretend to be surprised by anything. Kitty, you put one on this list I had never heard of, which I love, and that is the first one. Apparently involves a lighthouse. That's about the only thing I've been able to figure out. Tell us about your first pick for on the table.
Sure. This is actually an RPG called The Last Lighthouse at the Edge of the Universe.
You always have to add so many words
always
to
want
it.
I know. But that's a good thing when you're playing it, because basically you're just journaling together, or even you could play it solo, solitaire. And you're talking about this experience where you're just alone in this lighthouse, and there's tons of different mini games where you can add things like, okay, what are you going to do today? Maybe you're going to go, beachcombing, and what are you going to find there? And all you need is like a deck of cards, really, and some dice. It's super easy, and the book, and your own little journal.
And it's like it has these methodical parts to it where you actually have to do your tasks as if it's your job, but it's also interspersed with that RPG journaling aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's been like, I've seen where it does wonders for like people if they have anxiety problems or things like that.
Right. And what I thought was kind of cool was like in the rule book, they even say, like, for example, if you can't sleep, maybe try it as like a meditation exercise even. And like, if you're doing it at say 11, 12 o'clock at night, those are the prime times because you get a certain amount of resources or chances based on the hour it is. So I thought that was really neat too. And we just, on your birthday, just had this awesome time doing this.
Played it ever since, and it's so much fun packed into a really unassuming little tiny RPG. It's super cheap to get too.
Mm-hmm.
I backed it on Kickstarter, but I think you can pick it up on
Etsy. It's on Etsy now, and they have a couple others, and it honestly felt like as epic to us as like a D&D session or something.
Or like Mothership. We're addicted to the RPG Mothership. It felt just as rich, and it's this tiny little universe that you make. It's so cool.
Yeah, I'm really interested, I have to say, because a lot of these smaller, and when we did it in October, Teresa was talking about this journal-based RPG solo experience game, and I'm seeing more and more of these RPG games coming into, I don't want to say more mainstream, but they feel more accessible, I guess, or more approachable. I don't know. It seems like something I don't know how long it's been happening. I might have just noticed it, but more and more there's these being that style of game has become more approachable.
Well, there was
€1,000 vampire.
I was just going to say, it caused an explosion in that solo RPG.
That's the game that was mentioned, 1,000-year-old vampire.
Highly recommend that.
Highly recommend.
That's a double down recommendation. That was the last one, and like I said, November we ended up missing, but October that same game was recommended. So I mean, that's one that has Ben brought up.
And it's like a stunning piece of craftsmanship. Like I would get up and get it if I wouldn't have to mess up the camera. But it's beautiful too. So.
It is, and it's a very deep game about like a lot of things. Like if you had to lose memories, which memories would you lose?
Yeah.
It's really deep, and it can go dark if you want it to.
Yeah.
There's so many of them though. I think in that department, that it's really cool to see, and I bet you. I guess the explosion of that's going to continue into 2022. But one though, your second choice, I have to say, I saw it on Instagram a few times today. Recording
popular.
Like this, the game that looked gorgeous. Tell me about this game, because honestly, outside of photos, I honestly knew very little about this except for the name and that it looked beautiful.
Yeah, this is the most recent game we played. It's called Bivouac, and I'm the opposite of Board Game Dad and Brixby, where usually most of the time I'm not that into nature theme. I'm like, give me a detective, give me a history game. But then
the video game,
The Long Dark, came along, and all of a sudden I'm into survival. I'm into this. I'm into that. And I saw this cover, and I was like, oh my god, that reminds me of that. We have to play it. And I'm suddenly obsessed with that, with parks, with tons of those great games. And this one is so cool because it feels like a tiny civilization builder almost, where you're just building up the best camp you could possibly build. The expansion that came with it has staff members as well. And I always love, games where I could gather the whole tribe, the whole group. And I just thought it was so cool. And then you can make your buildings better, your amenities better, your activities.
Yeah, it's pure worker placement, but it's like a quick
and light resource.
Yeah, it's like a quick infusion of it too, which is nice. So it's like parks and viticulture had a baby. Almost.
Exactly. Yeah, because you're racing to pick certain places who can pick this first, and make that person not be able to, etc. Just like in viticulture or many of those games. And it was just fun.
Yeah, what drew my attention when I saw this, I think again it was on Instagram. I think it was Isla and Tyler had been playing it, but I saw, and I think it was them. But I digress. It doesn't matter who it was as much as I saw a gorgeous visual, and I was like, "What is this game?" I didn't even read at the time. I not read like the copy on it, so it grabbed my attention. I do love the nature content because I do think theme is like it. I always, when I talk to people, it's like, does theme matter? And that's a different answer for everybody, but you certainly can get drawn into a game just because of a theme, whether you like that theme or not.
100%.
Slap a royal theme on anything and show.
And I'm just like, oh my god, history that.
Not that I have room to talk, but still.
Yeah, you with your nature games or dinosaur games. Which, okay, if we're like sliding in third places, because that's apparently a theme, right? I just have to slide in, and I actually have this for one of the funniest experiences, Unmatched, which I know we talked about last time we were on here. We were looking at some of the online fan-made decks, and Brixby, for my birthday, surprised me and printed out the room where you play as Mark and Johnny from the cult movie The Room, and he just made it like these tiny cards,
like ridiculously small Tommy Wiseau cards,
to just help tie in with the theme of the movie. So speaking about theme,
but yeah, that the online database has tons. Like we have King Midas and Hecate and like Michael Myers. You can get tons of different decks for Unmatched.
You can just like pick your fandom and it's there.
Well, while we're at it, we do have a comment about nature, because I did ask, and nature games are so visually beautiful. I can't help but enjoy them, but I need more animals in my games. So, need more animals. Cascadia has animals. That's all.
So nature and animals. So
I mean,
Renature. That's a beautiful one.
You almost picked that one.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, see, look at these animals, everybody. Look at those animals.
And I mean, I have a crow in one of my picks.
Well, we are getting there. Actually, I want to thank everybody. The biggest thing, if you're watching this, whether if you create content, if you're a publisher, if you're just a person who likes games, I'm always looking for people to come on here and chat. So, or if you know someone who think it'd be just fun. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, this is very much about celebrating games and celebrating that we all play very different games. It's not always about the hottest. I think we have 4 from 2021 on this total. So not everything is from 2021, but it varies from each of these shows. So we definitely love featuring that. And I think a big thing that I want to make sure we continue to do is highlight the fact that someone discovers a game much later in life. Mandala is from 2019, and it was a hit when it happened, but it fell right around the time that COVID happened. And I don't know if it fell under the radar for some reason, but I came to love it. So it is what it is. But Lizzie, you do have a game on this list that I'm very happy you put on it, because I got to play it. The company that actually sent me this game, and I got to use it in a live stream. So
Nice.
that's a small hint if anyone watched 12 hours of live stream back in November. But tell us about this one and why what your experience, why you loved it.
Okay, so Floriferous, absolutely beautiful. I mean, come on now. But I really like it solo, which is what is set up on that picture right now. But it's just kind of like a relaxing type of game where you're just trying to collect different flowers, different symbols for the scoring on the top, and then you can get scoring cards on the very bottom. And then each card that you get, you have to choose, you have 5 times of choosing every day, and you have 3 days during the game. So you choose every time which card you want, and then based on where you're at, it determines how fast you can go in the next round in a multiplayer game. In a solo game, you'll choose where you're at, and then the crow will decide to mess with you on the next column. So you have to kind of watch that, and then you choose basically if you want a card that can possibly score, or if you want to get the very bottom row, which is cards that score. So, or that determine how you score, I guess I should say. So it's basically a set collection game, and it's fun, relaxing, beautiful artwork.
That
Just
entire
gorgeous.
series is so good. That whole series is so good.
Yeah.
They really, I think with Pencil First Games, they have mastered, in a sense, simplicity and strategy in one, because there's plenty of strategy in the set collection of this. Because speaking to what you were talking about, Lizzie, you've got a choice. I can go all the way to the bottom, or I could go somewhere knowing that the next turn I'm going to go last, and that may completely make it impossible to complete something. Whereas taking something that's less optimal, but maybe I have to push a little bit harder to now complete something else, will get me access to something, and I'm guaranteed to complete it. So I do think there's a beauty to this game. It's not just a beautiful game, but that combination of a simplicity plus strategy is there with all of these games that they produce. It's just masterfully.
Yeah, it's gorgeous and great game, and just it's a joy to play, really.
I agree. And I think this one, like I said, I have to personally thank them, because we were doing a 12-hour live stream at that time. We had raised $1,000 actually in that live stream. And this was one of the games in the midway point. We've just played a lot of long, like 1 or 2 long games, and Floriferous was one of the midway games. So this got highly featured from my perspective. I brought it and got to teach it. It was a real joy. So that was one of my first experiences with it. But it was fun. I agree completely. Your second game, though, you both your games really are beautiful, actually. In retrospect, you picked really visually just gorgeous games for this.
Or did we finally we don't get a Pandemic finally? She always picks Pandemic for everything.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that'll be a third choice. Seems like we're doing 3 choices.
Well, speaking of choices, Board Game Dad's coming in. Nature and Set Collection is another deadly combo for my wallet. And that, and we know Nature, and now we go Set Collection. So if anyone is wanting to pitch games to Anthony that maybe he'll buy, now you know.
A Nature Set Collection game. Got it. I'll link you on the Kickstarter.
Yes. So what do you got for the second one, though? Because this other one is gorgeous as well.
So there's one negative. It doesn't have as much art as you would think it would have. because there's a lot of repeats. Like you will see in the picture, every picture that you can see in the game. And there's a ton of repeats, and the only thing that really matters is the very top of the card. That's the only thing that matters for gameplay. So unless you're really into looking at the theme and forcing yourself to look at it, you can completely disregard it. So I think that's maybe why there's so limited pictures. But this is Arts Decko. That might be helpful to know the name. It's a deck building game. You're just trying to get art, get them. You can either choose a couple different strategies on going hardcore in the gallery, which is all those columns, and just getting victory points that way. Or you can try to get types of cards into your deck and just work on building up those values, because you score points for all the cards in your deck at the end of the game as well. And they just cost a certain amount of money. So you have gold cards that you start in your hand, and you can buy higher value gold cards. And eventually they cost like $16 to buy one of these cards. But you can also spend the art cards that are in your hand, and they stay in your hand for the end of the game. But the value of the art cards can go from 1 to 5 as well. So like they can help you get other art cards too.
I don't think I'm supposed to know this, but didn't you get me this for Christmas?
Yes. Does Kitty know her gift?
I kind of accidentally opened it in front of her because it was addressed to me, and I forgot you sent it to me.
And I knew he didn't buy it for himself,
Anyway.
so I need to, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so everyone else knows Kitty got 1960, Making of the President, and Brixie got Art Deco.
Oh,
Yeah.
So,
but it's a really fun game.
Now we're revealing secret. I didn't get you anything.
Oh man. Well, to be fair, I didn't get you anything either, right?
Yeah, we're good then.
I probably shouldn't tell them that you got me a present. So,
Right.
okay.
Well, you guys are like
we're
hair club.
we're in the hair
so...
band together.
So I do got to say, you mentioned the art. It's kind of I guess it makes sense based on what you said, why there's not as much variety to the art, but still, I do like it, again, a nice visual to the game, but talking to the strategy and the play of the game, I think, again, that's at the core. That's at the heart of it. Again, you mentioned Parks a few times earlier. I like Parks because the game plays well, in my opinion, not just because it looks beautiful. This is the same kind of thing where if it looks good, but it plays like garbage, it wouldn't matter. So it sounds like the game plays well from your perspective.
Yeah.
Who's the audience for this one, would you say? I mean, outside of the visual appeal.
People who like deck builders, because it's a really good deck builder game. And then it's not exactly a heavy game. Like the rule book is super thick, but there's only like on your player aid, there's only like 3 or 4 actions that you can do anyways. So once you learn those 3 or 4 actions, you just need, like, if you're a new gamer, just having a good teacher would make it so you can play this game. So
Interesting. Well, there was cheating, guys. I have to tell you, it's cheating. It's okay. So because everyone else did it except me. Well,
I mean, you added one. I mean, you talked about Targi.
I kind of did. I talk about Targi all the time. We gotta mention this because I very specifically.
I gotta get my crown on.
I
oh my god!
We do not, obviously, in this case, we can't give it away. It's a legacy game, so it's redacted. Yeah. But talk about this one because I know people know Pandemic Legacy. They know Pandemic. They're aware of Pandemic Legacy. There's season 1, season 2, and then they came out with season 0. So
yes.
Level set this for me about the kind of thematically when this one is even taking place, because it is obviously it's taking place before 1 and 2 technically, I believe.
Yeah, it's 1962, I believe, is the year that you are playing. I think it's the Cold War era, but basically you're trying to, there is the Soviet spies, so surprised that this wasn't printed in Russia. But anyways, so the Soviet spies are the disease, and they're the ones that keep coming out, and if you get too many, they're the ones that cause the outbreaks. But outbreaks work slightly differently. You learn this in the introduction. So like if you have an outbreak, you have to pull the bottom of the card, and they're just like, instead of spreading out the spies, you will do whatever action it says on that card. So I like that. But it's basically you're graduated medical school, and the CIA decided that it would be easier to train medical people to be spies than to train spies to become medical people in the field. So you're going out and you're looking at things. So you're going here and there, wherever they tell you to go, and whatever they tell you to do, you try to do. And if you're successful, you do better. If you're not successful, you do worse. Very revealing.
That is about as non-spoilery as you can be about Pandemic Legacy. I know where. Have you played the other? I guess my question is, have you played the other two as well?
Oh, yeah.
So where, and you've all played, it sounds like you've all got some experience there. So how's your rankings on this in terms of because you can play them in any order. You don't have to play these in order, really.
Correct.
So
I actually have a ranking of all the Pandemic types. And I actually ranked season 0 before I had fully played it, because we played the introduction, a year ago.
Yeah.
And Jerome got me, so this is not our copy, guys. It's not our copy, but Jerome got me a Christmas gift of another copy, and so I binge played it, and I am happy to say that I was right on what I thought about the game. So it is my third favorite of the Pandemic type. As far as the Legacy goes, I like Legacy 2, then 0, then 1.
Got it.
I feel like so far...
Take my crown off.
I'm also 2-0 then 1.
I would be 0 for so far, but I'm you guys with nature, me with history ones. So
well, and spies.
And spies, yeah. So when you're like, oh, Lizzie, didn't pick beautiful ones or did for this, so I know what we're not going to get a Pandemic. I'm like, but Pandemic Legacy season 0. I think it's just so gorgeous. I love it.
Gotcha.
And the theme and everything.
I'm not closing us out, but I want to make sure I take a moment to say thank you, though, to everyone watching. One thing I don't do enough is self-promote. So I'm just kidding. If you're not following on YouTube, please go ahead, follow on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. 2022 is going to be a great year. And in terms of content, I have a lot of really fun stuff. And I have some more announcements about the plan for 2022. But definitely more Creators Corner, more favorite series. Definitely, I'm going to do more individual ones, which makes it a little bit easier so I can hit on more games. And then this is going to be a monthly feature, obviously. So this was a newer thing to the end of 2021. This will continue. So you're going to get a lot of different faces on this channel. And I'm excited to see who comes and pops in. So we'll have some good people. But I wanted to make sure we put it out there. Very easy ways to get there, including tabletopexpress.com. Which is, I forgot I bought a domain for this like 2 years ago, and I realized that, so I applied it. So there we go. Makes it easy. Before you guys go, anything you're looking forward to? Kickstarter, something coming? I didn't prep you with this one. I threw a curveball. But anything you're looking forward to that's coming in 2022 that has you excited?
Well, I backed 24 Kickstarters this year. So some of them have arrived already, but Subterra 2 should be coming this year. So Subterra 1 is in my top 10. So very excited about that one. Very excited for Hegemony, Lead Your Class to Victory. It's a very asymmetrical game that's economic based, but not over a certain government. So it's not exactly like the United States government, but you have like the working class, the capitalists, the middle class, and then you have the actual state's government. So like, I'm really interested to see how that works and how that plays out. And yeah, I'll not talk about my others.
You more than that. I backed somewhere in the 50 to 60 range. Really embarrassed to say that out loud. But I'm actually most excited in one I didn't back and wish I had, but we got as a present that's still waiting to be delivered. Ankh. I'm very excited.
Yes, that one's so good.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm also excited for a couple that just got here, Mantis Falls and Into Deep. Both of those seem really amazing. And I've talked about this a ton on our channel, but I was obsessed with Old Salt last year. And it's just, the backer surveys just came out. So I can't wait to play that again.
So
it's in my top 10 games of all time.
Also a sleeper hit.
Yeah, that one is one that I'm really looking forward to too, but it's like not looking forward to because like it's not like anticipating because we've already played it, but I'm like, I really want to play it again, sort of thing.
I will tell you, I'll probably talk more about Mantis Falls on tomorrow's, which will be on the 21st of December for depending when you're watching this, maybe past, present, future. But I have very positive feelings about it.
Okay, good.
So hey,
I was blown. I will. This is kind of pre-PAX talk, but I was blown away by the presentation of it. Blown away, and I do not get excited about that style game, which is social deduction. I don't. I just don't. I was legitimately excited. I was standing next to Jeremy Howard from Man vs. Meeple, so we're standing there and we're listening to her explain it about how they designed the game, the two and three player style being available with social deduction. And I'm like, wait a minute, you did all these, you've made me care about social deduction. So I'll definitely talk even in more detail tomorrow, but excitement level, it's there. So great recommendation. Great name drop there. I will say excitement wise, just so everyone here can hear it, Everdell coming with the last pieces of that collection. I'm just excited. I love Everdell. The first expansion Everdell is fine. I never play with it, but it exists. But most of Everdell I love, and I just love that world. I often ask the question, if you could live in a board game world, what would you live in? And it's a question you'll hear from me quite a bit, I think, in 2022, because I will be adding it to Creators Corner. Because it's one I wanted to add because I just want something fun to ask people. And that one, man, Everdell, to live in the world of Everdell would be cool. Unless certain people show up in the story. But
and shout out to them also for inclusivity. They updated the partner cards.
Yeah, they used to have husband wife. Now it's gatherer harvester.
Yep.
And it's different range of sexes, and so they can be paired.
When is that getting delivered? Hopefully soon.
That one, Everdell estimated was March 2022.
So August. Got it.
I just add a year to anything now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, okay.
That is my rule of thumb at this point. By the way, speaking of tomorrow, everybody, I'm amped. I'm excited because next on the Express is unpaxing. That's what we're doing. We're unpacking PAX Unplugged. Anthony, Board Game Dads, and I are going to be collaborating on this one. We were both there. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be tomorrow at 9:00. Just so everyone is aware, it's going to be a really great time. We've got a lot that we can share. My hope, however, is if you're seeing this and you attended, come on by. What I'm going to be doing is we're going to be dropping once in a while. I'll drop a link, let people pop in on the back end, and then you can join in. We want to make this a conversation for those who did attend, and it goes out obviously to everybody. There's some folks certainly who I had a chance to meet there that I hope will be able to attend, but it was such a great time. So many great games, but it was really just a great experience. I think in this particular year, there was something special about it for me. So that's going to be tomorrow at 9:00. That is December 21st at 9:00 for clarity's sake. I do want to take this time though to thank the three of you for coming back on the channel. You were on early this year, so you're now repeat to the channel for 2021, and I thank you. Appreciate your support in this year, in the first year of this channel. We recently passed the year mark.
Congratulations!
It's fun. We're having a good time, and that's the priority here. The priority is fun and bringing forward that idea of games are fun, right? And there's a reason we play these, and in the long run, there's a joy from them, and that's the word that I use.
Oh, it should be 100%.
I followed through with my promise last time, and I bought Raiders of the North Sea.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we haven't played it yet.
So
It's all right.
We're gonna learn it. We're gonna play
We're
it.
gonna play it with you.
Awesome.
It's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
We will, if it makes you feel better. I've only got like one play in it at most this year, and it's really sad.
But you've also played a lot of other fun games too.
Yeah, and because this is the last year, I think it's important to say, based on what you just said, I think that the real thing is I focus very much on playing a lot of different games this year, expanding. And I had a lot of fun with it. So I also think we experienced a lot of challenges this year, a lot of playing online, those sort of things. There's a lot of board game arena this year still. Less than last year, but still plenty. I think I was at 150 to 200 board game arena games for myself. You all play when you get to play games. I was always impressed. I know that you were able to try and do them over Zoom and other places. So
yeah, physical.
Yes,
games.
I know.
But like we also started 5 years ago. So like we started with really simple, like Love Letter, Parade, like really basic games, and then have slowly grown to expanding out to being able to play tiled drafting
Being able
games.
to play
Gloomhaven.
Gloomhaven, Teotihuacan, Concordia. No problem at all.
Well, I will say, because when you were on, shortly after you came on, I started doing quacks over Zoom with people.
Yeah, I saw that.
That started after you were on. So I give
Yeah.
credit.
Well, I'm glad that you got to have fun with it.
Yes. And that person just got Jason. I know you're going to watch this at some point. But that person has the expansion now, so now we can play with the expansion or the first expansion.
Yes.
Not the second. I don't own the second yet either. But look, I want to thank you all for being here. I really do appreciate it. It is certainly meant a lot to me, and I thank you for your time. Can you tell everybody where they can find you and the stuff that you're doing? Because I want to make sure that people can hopefully go over and check your stuff out as well.
Yeah, we're mainly doing YouTube right now. It's Long Distance Gamers. It's just C-Long Distance Gamers, I think, is our official channel lookup. But if you look up Long Distance Gamers, we're usually the first one that pops up. Sometimes there's one with like 2 subscribers and 1 video. That's not us. We have over 100 videos now and 122 subscribers.
Very well.
We just got a couple this week. So thank you for subscribing. And hey, while you're here, why are you subscribing to Tabletop Express? Come on now.
Exactly.
Subscribe and like the video while we're at it.
Comment.
Yes. See, that's how you know your YouTube. No, I thank you all for being here. Again, yes, you can. See, I can pop this up if I want. That's where you can find me. But seriously, I want to thank my guests for being here today. If you know someone who you think would be great for this show, it's a once a month show, just talking, chatting, sharing games we played, and more so than anything, experiences. Tune in tomorrow. That'll be December 21st at 9 p.m. Eastern time for Unpacking PAX Unplugged. Anthony, Board Game Dads, is going to be joining me for that, and more good stuff to come in the week that follows with some year-end wrap-up type stuff that I think is going to be a lot of fun. Thank you, Lizzie. Thank you, Kitty. Thank you, Brooks. And to everybody else, thank you for coming aboard the Tabletop Express. I hope you all have a wonderful night.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Chris.